Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of our Student Spotlight series, where we are able to showcase some of the work our past students have done. I'm Charlotte, one of the outreach coordinators here at CCIR, and it's our pleasure today to have Ray with us, who did one of our Future Scholars Program courses. So firstly, Ray, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what year you are in school, and then what course you did?
Hi guys, I'm Ray. I'm from China originally, but lived in 4 countries actually. My current country is the United Arab Emirates, and I go to the American School of Dubai. I'm a rising senior, and I'm very excited to be here for this interview.
Great. And then, so you did one of our Future Scholars Program courses. Can you tell us what course that was, and maybe if you remember the mentors as well?
I did constitutional theory, law, power, and politics. My professor was Leo Trueblood of Oxford University, and our TA was Mr. Nishan Gokil of Cambridge University.
Great. And then what made you seek out this course?
Well, I was just very interested. So I heard about CCIR from a mentor and was interested in the course because I wanted to have a research experience before college and wanted to be a student in an academically challenging course.
Great. And then, so for people that don't know about the course, can you give us a summary of what you researched and what the course was about?
So the course is it was about how different constitutional systems worked or failed to work. And the fundamental idea of constitutional systems, and such as representation and popular sovereignty, we analyze legal cases, laws, and professional academia in order to understand the theoretical and practical elements of this field of study. And the research I did my research title was Political Representation in Modern Islamic States, a case study of the United Arab Emirates. And it is a case study of the United Arab Emirates of the present, but through the past, by analyzing a case based on the local culture and history of the region while evaluating the present.
Interesting. And had you had experience with constitutional law before you took this course?
No, it's very new to me, and I had a lot of fun looking at it.
Great. So just a few questions about your specific research project. So firstly, you said you looked at a case study in the UAE. Can you tell us what your research methods were for that and what your process was for finding data?
So, I felt really connected to this research because I grew up living internationally in 4 countries, and 2 of them were Muslim countries. I've lived in Brunei in Southeast Asia previously to the United Arab Emirates. And I found that there's a lot of research on these countries and the greater Islamic world. But during my experiences, I've realized that there's kind of a great cultural barrier between what we consider as the center of modern academia, the West, and rest of the world, especially those like the Islamic world that are associated with particular views. And Islam, the related culture and the Islamic world is far more complicated and sophisticated than what appears to be on the surface. And many phenomena in these societies are the results of their fundamental religion. So what I did during this is I looked at a lot of Western written academia, but at the same time, I consulted my in-school professor of Islamic religion, Dr. Farmer. He's the Islamic teacher at my school and a professor at Georgia University on the religious aspects of this research, because I felt that to understand what's going on, we have to understand the fundamental differences. And to understand and go across these fundamental differences, we have to know what we are talking about and know the historical and cultural and religious context of what's happening around us.
I think that's a great insight and definitely very important. Can you give us a summary of what your findings were and what you kind of took away as the key takeaways of your findings?
So I found out that it's a lot more complicated and a lot more sophisticated, a lot more interesting than what we perceive it as. So on one hand, all of the Islamic world kind of have to a certain extent some associations with how it has been considered undemocratic and maybe even against human rights. But living in one Islamic country and looking at through my research, that is, I can say, at least in my environment, that's the opposite case. So when I was looking at the religious aspects of this research, I found out in the Holy Quran in Ayah 38 of the Surah Ashura. And it reveals that who respond to their Lord, establish prayer, conduct their affairs by mutual consultation, and donate from what we have provided for them. The emphasis of that passage is mutual consultation. And that refers to a process in the Islamic world called Shura, which the Prophet Muhammad himself, peace be upon him, established. And the Shura is kind of like Plato's nocturnal council, and it is qualified people doing their jobs. Qualified people who know what they're discussing about come together to make decisions for a community. So to a certain extent, it is like representative democracy. But on the other hand, is representative democracy, but you have to be qualified for it. So if we look at some examples of current congressmen, congresswomen, and representatives, you can see that not all of them come from a legal or political science background. So in a Shura system, they will be unqualified for the job. But in like for the Shura, you have to be qualified for the topic you're discussing about. And you can see this element of the Shura to a greater extent in the United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is a federal monarchy system. So you have 7 emirates coming together. And so the ruling monarchs of these emirates come together in a sense to form a Shura to make decisions for the community. So it's not like autocratic, it's not a dictatorship, but rather I would say like a hidden discussion, that a discussion we might not be prone to, but it's certainly considered with thought and with consideration that decisions were made.
That's very interesting. And it seems like what you're saying is that kind of the formal process reflects their kind of religious beliefs or the social system, that's very interesting. And then just my last question about your specific research, was there anything that you found that maybe changed your perspectives or was interesting that you hadn't thought of before you started the research?
Like, it blew me away because this is the first time I've come close to religious text. And I found out that like a lot of things I see in my community is a response to the culture based on the religion. Like a part of my research was about women in the Islamic world. And like there's a lot of controversy, a lot of discussion on this topic. And frankly, it is a very complicated topic, but it is based on what is taught by their holy texts, and it is changing to a certain extent. Something in the Islamic world is by the Quran is men are supposed to provide for women. And men are supposed not only provide financially, but emotionally, provide protection and a lot of things. So in Muslim states, even now to these days, you see men working out more. But women can also work in what we consider as a secularizing Muslim nations. And it's just whether they want to work or not. And women have incredible influence over their families and thus over the decisions of a certain state. Because Prophet Muhammad himself, peace be upon him, had a lot of respect for mothers in the family. And in both the past and the present, you see mothers making a huge impact on Muslim nations. In history, we have a lot of Muslim women who made an impact. You have like Roxolana of the Ottoman Empire, who was extremely influential during the reign of her husband, Suleiman the Magnificent. And now in the United Arab Emirates, you could see that women have independent roles. Royal women are allowed to be out in the public and do a lot of things if they choose to. And but in the end, when you see, you can see impact beyond what is just at the surface, and you realize this is a consequence of an impact of what their culture has been.
That's very interesting and great insights. So now we're going to shift to discuss just your general experience with CCIR. So firstly, can you tell us what your experience was doing a program like this as a high school student, especially since I think you mentioned that you hadn't had experience with constitutional law before?
So I had a great time. I had no expectations of what's going to happen because this is my first time even for academic research. And I found out it's not as difficult as I expected it to be, but it was time consuming in a way. And especially it was during May, so I was balancing major exams at the same time. But I have a lot of support from my professor and my TA. It wasn't their field of study, but they provided a lot of academic support in terms of papers and in terms of like guiding questions that I could follow. And with my classmates, they were super diverse in terms of background. They're from different locations, 3 countries, different education systems, different schools, and they challenged me academically and made me think of things beyond what we usually think of in my own school. So I've had a wonderful time, and class content is a good kind of challenge. So that was amazing.
That's great. And just as you mentioned, for those listening, the Future Scholars Program is our group course. So we do cap each course at 5 students. So it's still a very tight-knit group. But as Ray mentioned, oftentimes our students really love being able to connect with those around the world. You're able to connect with others who have a similar interest as you and learn from them and develop each other, which is great. And then again, we really like to emphasize the aspect of mentorships in our programs as opposed to just the traditional teacher role, where our mentors don't just transfer information onto you, but really guide you through your own discoveries and learning process. Can you tell us about your experience with your mentor and your TA as you moved through the first more traditional teaching half of the course into the latter research-oriented half of the course?
So we've had Professor Dr. Liu Trubler and Mr. Nishan Gokil, they were very, it's just, hi guys. And they we have this text to read today, we have this text to read after class, and we come to class immediately with this discussion. And what we had was, to a certain extent, Professor Trubler or Mr. Nishan Gokil, they would talk about the theoretical concepts, transmitting the knowledge. Then afterwards, they open up the floor for us to discuss a topic. And sometimes what we see is it moves from one topic to another and back to a topic we have previously learned. So that was really interesting to see all things come together into this massive constitution that we analyze. And it's very relaxing in a way that they let us do whatever and say whatever we think. And we analyze what we talk about, and we talk about what we talked about.
That's great. And then can you tell us what it was like taking kind of a more niche or specific course compared to the general high school course, and many even undergraduate courses? Can you tell us what it was like taking a course that was so kind of specific or niche?
I think it was good because I wanted to have foundational knowledge of what is going on. And that's something that big courses, they can't offer you because they're jumping from one topic to another every session. But this niche course is we focused on constitutions. But at the same time, there was a lot of freedom of what we could research. Is my research wasn't anything traditional on a format of a constitution or element of a constitution, but rather combination with something else. And I was only able to do that because I had the knowledge, found the foundational concepts of what was taught to me in this class.
And then just a few more questions. Firstly, has the course given you any insights into your future? Do you think it's maybe informed or shaped how you think of your academic or career path moving forward?
I think I've learned a lot in preparation for academic research for university. It's absolutely great to have experience. And in terms of my research topic, I've actually got to connect with a lot of people in my community based on this research because I had to conduct in-person interviews with my professor and also with other students on what they thought about the topic. And it was great to connect with people in my community. On a higher level, I'm considering on pursuing more research and more studies into this specific topic because it's absolutely fascinating. And it's really, we have to understand the fundamentals to communicate across cultures. And it's difficult to evaluate things fairly without understanding cultures. And that goes on even to our daily interactions with other people. And I lived very internationally, and something I've always done is to pick up on the culture. And this is such a wonderful opportunity to explore the culture from an academic lens. And it's incredible.
I think those are great insights. And then my last question for you, what would you say to someone who asked you what the value of doing a project or a program like this is, especially for a high school student?
First of all, I think it's just you learn a lot of things. that you wouldn't learn in your own community. And you connect to a lot of academically like similar minded people who's always there to support you and who's there to help you and guide you. And I think that's something a lot of us don't have in our individual communities. At the same time, you have a lot of freedom in terms of research of what you want to pursue. And you have to know that your professor and your TA will only support you and they push you in the right direction. They'll challenge you in the best mindset.
Great. So thank you so much for chatting to me, and congratulations again on your nomination to our Spotlight series.
Thank you.